Being 5:30 the clock, I will call this special meeting of the town of Fort Frances to open. And we'll begin with a territorial acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation, the town of Fort Frances acknowledges with respect that it is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis people of Treaty 3. We give gratitude and honor to the ancestors, elders, and all Anishinaabe and Métis people for sharing their resources and knowledge with us. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest, and if so, state the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 4. The purpose of this meeting, the purpose of this special meeting of council, is to conduct public interviews of qualified candidates and appoint a candidate to the vacant councillor seat of the town of Fort Frances. And with that, I would like to exercise my privilege as mayor to make a few opening remarks. Mostly the remarks of welcome and gratitude. I would like to welcome everyone joining us this evening, either here or at home, for today's council meeting, and a special welcome to the 6 candidates who have let their names stand for office. It takes courage and integrity to put your name forward. So we're gathered here this evening to consider an important decision for our community, one that reflects our shared values of service, commitment, and leadership. And today, this evening, we have the privilege of hearing from 6 exceptional candidates who are competing for a single vacancy on our council. Each candidate brings with them a wealth of experience, a strong record of service to our community, and a passion for making a positive impact. We are truly fortunate to have such dedicated individuals stepping forward to offer their time, skills, and experience to the community and to this important role. It's inspiring to see such a strong interest in serving our community. It's clear that all 6 candidates are well qualified and deeply committed to the future of our community. Their diverse backgrounds, perspectives, and ideas would no doubt enrich the debate that goes on at the council table, and I am confident that each of them would serve with honor and dedication. I personally would be pleased to have any one of these candidates serve on council. However, only one candidate can fill this vacancy. And so this will be a difficult decision for all of us on council to make as we evaluate the strengths and visions that each candidate brings. I believe that no matter what the outcome today, we are fortunate to have had the opportunity to consider such a talented group of individuals. And I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the 5 candidates who will not be selected at this time. I strongly encourage each of you to continue your pursuit of public service. Your qualifications, experience, and dedication are invaluable assets to our community, and I encourage you to run for a position on council or a position on one of the various committees that are looking for volunteers in the future. Our community needs leaders like you, and I am confident that your continued involvement would make a lasting difference. And with that, I look forward to hearing from each of you, and I thank you all for your commitment to serving our community. So thank you. Thank you, Douglas, Kevin, Robert, Scott, William, and Pamela for your conviction in allowing your names to stand, for having the courage of your conviction in allowing your names to stand. Our community needs more individuals just like you. And with that, I'm going to outline the process that we'll be following this evening. Please bear with me while I do that. So the seat of the town of Fort Frances councillor was declared vacant in accordance with section 262(1) of the Municipal Act on October 28, 2024. Council authorized the vacancy to be filled by appointment. Notice was posted inviting interested individuals who are qualified electors of the town of Fort Frances To submit an application and supporting documentation, the candidates were asked to submit a personal statement and were provided 4 predetermined questions. During this meeting, candidates will be asked to sit in an adjacent room until it is their time to address council. The order of speakers will be done in alphabetical order of their surname, as they're called by the clerk. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves and read their personal statement of qualification. This was the one-page personal statement that was provided at the time of application, and council will pose the 4 predetermined questions, and candidates will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Council, of course, will provide no further questions or comments. When candidates begin speaking, a timer will be set, and the clerk will raise her arm when there are 30 seconds remaining and will be told when the time is up. When candidates are done speaking, it's up to them if they'd like to return to the committee room or stay in council chambers. I'd stay in council chambers. Once all candidates have had a turn to speak and have returned to council chambers, council will vote by way of a public vote. The balloting will be shared on screen. Members of council shall mark their vote on a ballot, verbally read their vote, and pass their ballot to the clerk. Voting will continue until a candidate receives more than 1/2 of the votes of the voting members of council or until a tie is broken, and the clerk will provide further information on the voting procedure at that time. The successful candidate will be appointed to fill the vacancy effective this evening upon taking an oath of office and a bylaw being passed to that effect. So, we will move to item number 5, which is the nomination of candidates. Did you want to go ahead?
Good evening. November 13th, 2024 to December 11th, 2024, the clerk's office accepted applications for the vacant seat of councillor. 7 people applied for the vacancy during this window. 1 person had withdrawn their name prior to the closing date. December 11th at 2:19 p.m. as interim municipal clerk, I signed off on our certified list of applicants, having been satisfied that the 6 individuals were qualified and that they met the requirements of the Municipal Elections Act 1996.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So moving on to 5.1, the recommendation that I'll put on the floor is that the following individuals who have signified in writing that they are legally qualified to hold office and consented to accept the office if they are appointed to fill the vacancy be considered for appointment to fill such vacancy. And they are Douglas D. Brown, Kevin John Dowse, Robert Anamiki Horton, Scott Krinky Turvey, William Morrison Jr., and Pamela J. Williams. I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Mackey, Councillor Bien. Any discussion on this? Calling the question, all in favor? That's carried. No one is opposed. So we'll move then to item number 6, which is the candidate presentation and interviews, and we'll be doing these as mentioned in alphabetical order by surname. So if all the candidates but Doug Brown go down to the committee room, I think we have someone to escort you. Make sure you don't get lost. Yeah. So Doug, I know where you know where to go to do the presentation.
Well, I was going to go there. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. My name's Douglas Brown. I live at 945 McKenna Street North in Fort Frances, Ontario. I'm an accomplished professional engineer for over 35 years. For the last 33 years, I've been employed in the senior management team leadership role for 3 municipalities in Northwestern Ontario. Marathon, Fort Frances, and Eagle. I was responsible to lead a team to operate and maintain both critical and non-essential municipal services and infrastructure. Each community had I've had an opportunity to experience a variety of operational irregularities over my past 33 years. I've been an effective team leader with a demonstrated track record to accomplish meeting priorities in a systematic and cost-effective manner. In Ontario, it's becoming more challenging to deliver services in a municipal setting. The vast amount of legislation is very challenging to ensure affordability is maintained for our taxpayers. In accordance to the Municipal Act, there's two key responsibilities of council. One, to determine what services the municipality provides. Two, to maintain the financial integrity of the municipality. Councilor's job is to work with other council members to set the overall direction of the municipality through their role as policymakers. Policies that council set are guidelines for administration to follow as it does its job directing or operating the municipality. I have the capability to fulfill these responsibilities as a councilor for the town of Fort Frances. In October of this year, I completed my role as a part-time employee of the town, and now I'm eligible to apply for the vacancy on council. The town has been very good to me and my family. This is my turn to return the favor. I've raised two kids, Emily and Dustin, in Fort Frances. Both have become great adults as a result of being raised in our community. Fort Frances played an integral role in shaping my kids. Brown and I don't plan on moving. I want to ensure my grandkids, if possible, experience a better version of Fort Frances. Fort Frances has a lot of positive characteristics where teamwork and leadership are essential to ensuring the well-being of the community continuously improves. In closing, I've been a proficient and knowledgeable senior management team, 3 different municipalities in northwestern Ontario. I believe my experience and education align well with the vacant council position. If selected, representing the public function is a new challenge for me going forward. I am retired, I have the time, I'm in good shape, and I have the energy to fulfill my role as a councilor for the next 23 months. Thank you for providing me with this possibility to shape the future of Fort Frances from a totally different perspective.
Thank you very much, Doug. And with that, we'll go to the questions. Start with Councilor Mackey.
Thank you, Your Worship. What motivated you to apply for this position, and what unique skills or experiences do you bring that would benefit our council?
I'm not moving out of Fort Frances. I wanted the opportunity to try to shape the future of Fort Frances where additional jobs or taxable assessment are added prior to the closure of the mines west of Fort Frances. It's a new personal challenge because I can represent the public. I've never done that in any positions that I have been with council. This is a totally different lens and perspective, and I'm looking forward to the challenge. It's different. I don't have any major files or agenda. I've got 3 key motivational considerations. One, I want to keep the tax increases reasonable at an inflation rate or a bit lower going forward. I want to promote the development of the vacant land within the town limits, including the old Shevlin Woodyard, the Point Park properties, and any vacant properties out there. I don't like the fact that property taxes are being utilized for integrity commissioner investigations. This is a terrible piece of legislation for a small town democracy, and it has tarnished our reputation and society. It's not good for society to have this type of legislation. People are allowed to have their opinion. They have to be respectful, but this legislation has to be amended for smaller towns. It can't go on. It's costly. We're not providing the services because we're spending money in courts for hiring integrity commissioners. I disagree with that. I think as council you have an obligation to lobby the provincial government to change this. Well, my unique skills, I graduated from Lakehead University in 1986. I've been a professional engineer for over 35 years. I abide by a code of ethics. I don't live in the past. I want to contribute to making the future of our community better. Been exposed to various sections of the Municipal Act and associated regulations. I'm familiar with the day-to-day operations. I'm a long-term thinker, a logical thinker. Basically work smarter, not harder. Finally, I'm a proud citizen of the nation's
Hi, Doug. That's our 2 minutes. Thank you.
Moving on to question number 2, Councilor Brunetta.
Thank you. So, Mr. Brown, our council must make decisions that balance diverse community needs. How do you plan to engage with and represent all residents in your decision making?
Okay, I will not be engaged using social media, but I will meet by means of face-to-face meetings. Taxpayers and constituents will be able to contact me initially by cell phone, set up these meetings. I will discuss the issues at hand and fully understand what action the taxpayer needs to address the issue. I can provide directions such as how to file an official complaint or write to the clerk for council consideration. The role of council is to represent the public, but it also has an obligation to consider the well-being and the interest of the municipality. Council must maintain financial integrity and determine the services the municipalities are willing to offer. There are extreme viewpoints on a variety of issues affecting our community. One must listen to all viewpoints, decide what the best path forward to ensure the well-being of the community. One can't make all taxpayers and constituents happy at all the times, but how we communicate this approach once the decision is made goes a long way in ensuring the community is successful for the long run.
Thank you for that, Mr. Brown. Moving to question number 3, Councilor Firth.
Thank you. Council members often face differing viewpoints. How would you handle situations where your personal views or beliefs differ from council's final decision?
Democracy allows for different viewpoints on all issues affecting the community. Different viewpoints is part of the decision-making process. Back in 2018, all municipalities in Ontario were mandated to establish a code of conduct for elected officials. Council members shall abide by the code of conduct. Council has a strong role to protect, promote municipality, and more importantly, its reputation as an excellent place to live, work, and do business. Each member council has the duty and responsibility to treat members of the public, one another, staff appropriate and without abuse, bullying, and intimidation, to ensure the municipal work environment is free from discrimination and harassment. We have policies in place such as the anti-violence, harassment, and sexual harassment policy. Members shall not use insulting words, tones, expressions towards any other members, any staff members, and any members of the public. Once a decision is made, individual councillors must and will respect the decision-making process. Individual councillors will attempt to accurately and adequately communicate the latitudes and conditions decisions of council, even if they disagree with the final decision of council.
Thank you. And for our 4th question, Councilor McTaggart.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Brown, would you describe your decision-making process, please, and how you approach a complex issue where community members are divided?
Okay, as a professional engineer and as an appointed member of council, the welfare of the public is paramount in making any decision. However, nothing is for free. One must ensure financial integrity of the municipality is maintained. In making my decision, one must ask the following 7 logical questions. Do I have enough information available at the time it to be in a position to make the informed decision? Or do I need additional information and data? Does the decision ensure the well-being and interest of the community for the long run? Can the community afford it? Are there any additional ongoing operating costs incurred? Is the service not presently provided by the town or outlined in the municipal plan? Are there any other options available for consideration? Is there any additional taxable assessment or jobs created? For all major decisions, I usually put a list of pros and cons together. I wait 24 hours before I make the final decision. Each member of council is given an opportunity to express their viewpoint once a resolution or motion is on the floor for debate prior to a vote of council. As one member of council, I shall listen to different viewpoints from other members of council prior to voting on the matter on the floor. I must abide by the code of conduct as interacting with each member of council and staff. Once a decision is made, the individual council members must and will respect the decision-making process. Individual members will attempt to accurately and adequately communicate the decisions of council, even if they disagree with the final decision of council. The communication approach, how decisions are made goes a long way in ensuring the community is successful for the long run.
Thank you for those answers in that presentation, Mr. Brown. So you have the choice of remaining here. Or... Welcome, Mr. Dowse.
Thank you.
Anytime you're ready.
Good evening, Fort Francis Council. My name is Kevin Dowse, and I'm seeking appointment to the town's council. I believe the town of Fort Francis is an excellent community to live, work, and play. I'd be honored to serve as a councillor for the remaining term. Some of you may know me already, as I've been an engaged citizen since I first moved to this area in 2016. I've been working full-time as a primary care paramedic for the District of Rainy River Services Board since April 2016. I've also been a part-time firefighter with the Fort Francis Fire and Rescue Service since October 2017. Throughout my career in public service, I've had the pleasure of working with many different community partners and organizations, meeting citizens of all backgrounds and walks of life. In February of this year, I attended the Comprehensive Approach to Rural Emergencies program, which was hosted at Atikokan General Hospital. This program was an incredible experience for me, and it was great to connect with and learn with physicians, nurses, and fellow paramedics. I'm very in tune with the healthcare challenges facing communities in northwestern Ontario. I would like to bring my frontline experience and advocacy for healthcare to the table, working to improve health access and outcomes for citizens of Fort Francis and surrounding communities. In July of this year, I attended a District of Rainy River Services Board meeting to give a presentation regarding the recruitment and retention of paramedics at the service. My goal was to provide a comprehensive update of the staffing challenges facing the service, providing frontline insight into how it has been affecting the staff, as well as educating board members about the unique skills and knowledge that is required to be a paramedic in 2024. Mayor Halikas was in attendance at this meeting, and I thought it was a very productive session. I was pleased to have received so many questions from himself and other board members about what solutions could potentially help resolve this staffing shortage and improve pre-hospital care in the area. I've been a taxpayer in Fort Francis since September 2017, and I've enjoyed visiting the town's facilities such as the Memorial Sports Center, Library and Technology Center, Thornton Gap Marina, and other parks and recreation amenities. It is clear to me that Fort Francis has an impressive history, location, and natural beauty. There's so much potential in our community to enhance the economic opportunities for tourism and recreation. I believe that citizens of Fort Francis want to see the town's reputation and general safety aspects improved. The amount of crime plaguing the town is unacceptable, and it's deterring families, residents, and visitors from being able to truly enjoy areas such as the Great Canadian Main Street. Business owners on Scott Street and other locations must be listened to, and loitering and public intoxication laws must be enforced. Families and other people are worried about finding used needles on the ground while visiting public spaces. There's indeed housing challenges in the town, ranging from homelessness to inaffordability, as well as sky-high property tax rates, which may deter future new residential development. If I were to be appointed to council, I will be working hard as a strong advocate for public safety, economic development, and fiscal responsibility. I want to help the town of Fort Fort Francis continue to grow into the century. There are boundless opportunities to improve the experience for residents and visitors to our beautiful town. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dowse. And now we'll go to the 4 questions. I'll ask the first question. Question number 1 is, what motivated you to apply for this position? And what unique skills or experiences do you bring that would benefit our council?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Delictus. I was motivated to apply for the position because I want to be involved in the decision-making that happens at the council table. My background and experience in emergency services have given me the opportunity to meet people from all walks of life. I'd be honored to serve as a representative for the town and its citizens. Throughout my time as a paramedic, I've had to make decisions under pressure while gathering all available information and considering the outcomes of the best overall choice. I've had to maintain a close attention to details, practice my communication skills, and write reports that would later be reviewed and scrutinized. As a firefighter, I've had to work as an effective member of a team, following orders from supervisors and working cohesively with teammates to accomplish an objective. As a rental property owner, I've had to make capital investments into the properties while managing budgets, keeping records for tax purposes, and addressing the needs of tenants. My skill set is very diverse, and I'm always willing to learn and try something new. If I need assistance, I often reach out to someone I know to ask for advice. I enjoy speaking with the public and discussing politics and their vision for the direction of the town.
Thank you. For question number 2, we'll go to Councilor McTaggart.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Dowse, our council must make decisions that balance diverse community needs. How do you plan to engage with and represent all residents in your decision-making?
Thank you for the question, Councilor McTaggart. I plan to engage with all residents by maintaining an open line of communication with a willingness to listen and hear their priorities, opinions, and concerns. I will be dedicated to making connections with all residents by attending community events and visiting local businesses, workplaces, community centers, and recreation facilities. When making a decision, I will make an effort to hear opposing sides of the discussion or look for opportunities for compromise so that balance is maintained and residents feel heard. Overall, I will represent the constituents in a balanced way by bringing a common sense, practical approach to the decision-making process.
Thank you. Question number 3, we'll go to Councilor Behan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Dowse, council members often face differing viewpoints. How would you handle situations where your personal views or beliefs differ from council's final decisions?
Thank you for the question, Councilor Bayan. In a situation where my personal views or beliefs differed from council's final decision, I would accept that democracy has worked as intended by conducting a vote in council and proceeding with the option that garnered the highest number of votes. I would support council's final decision with an understanding that the objective is to come to a consensus which benefits the town and its residents. I have reviewed and will continue to study the Municipal Act as well as bylaws set by the town. I also understand there is a chain of command and the municipal staff are under the direction of the CAO and not the council.
Thank you. For question number 4, back to Councilor Forrest.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Dowse, describe your decision-making process. How would you approach a complex issue where community members are divided?
Councilor Firth. My decision-making process is grounded in conducting background research, viewing primary and secondary sources of information, having discussions, and giving many people the opportunity to have their opinion heard. I would prioritize making decisions which will have a lasting benefit to the town, providing its residents with a fiscally responsible use of their tax dollars, and and providing services and amenities which they can enjoy. In the case of a complex issue which has divided community members, I would make a concerted effort to engage with constituents by maintaining transparency and accountability. I would listen and make contributions to council based on what I have heard from constituents about their opinions on the matter at hand.
Thank you for your presentation and those answers, Mr. Dowse. Mr. Dowse, you're welcome to stay.
I will.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Horton. And you may begin whenever you're ready.
My name is Robert Horton. I'm a proud resident and community member of our beautiful town of Horton, as well as a member of I'm writing this letter to express sincere, passionate interest in contributing to our town by putting my name forward for its sake. I acknowledge that our town and community not only is it full of natural beauty and abundance of history, but it remains a place that rests very which all paths in my life have always led back. My areas of proficiencies and personal skill sets far-reaching and varied, and a set of skills that I would be very happy to contribute selflessly and in a positive way. Well-being.
Hi, sorry, Rob, to interrupt. Could you speak more into the microphone? Yeah. Is that on?
There we go.
Thank you.
How's that? Oh, there we go. My areas of proficiencies and my skill set are unique, far-reaching, in variance, and a set of skills that I would love to contribute to we all love in a positive fashion for this collective well-being, both today and tomorrow. I am an author, public speaker, educator, linguist, artist with a passionate interest in civics, oratory, philosophy and political philosophy, political science, history, and economics. My areas of educational attainment are also aspects I would like to contribute to the positive well-being of our town. I currently hold a Master's in Education, Master of Arts in Sociology, Bachelor's of Education, Bachelor's of Arts in Sociology, Certificate of Law from Queen's University, Certificates of Economic Development, among others. I am currently an Anishinaabe-Moan Ojibwe language instructor and cultural facilitator at Seven Generations Education Institute, where I have worked for nearly a decade, as well as a professor for Durham College and an instructor for Lakehead University. In recent years, I have received the Instructor of the Year Award in recognition of strength and leadership in Indigenous education by the IIC, the Top 40 Under 40 Award from the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce, St. Cloud State University's Graduate of the Last Decade Award, the recipient of the Heroes of Our Time Award presented by National Chief Phil Fontaine, and the Assembly of First Nations. The Aboriginal Role Model Award, awarded by former Governor General Michelle Jean, and the Honorary Lifetime Induction to Alpha Kappa Delta, the International Honor Society for Sociologists. Above all, it was a sit-down lunch at La Place Rendezvous with our mayor during the summer months that prompted consideration of one day putting my name forward in a letter such as this. And for that talk, I'm eternally grateful. It is incumbent upon those with skills and concerns for the future of our communities to go beyond merely supporting, commenting, or critiquing local and regional civics and government. It is necessary to contribute, not as an ascension to power, but to a submission of service, to benefit all of our town's residents with reason, rationality, common sense, logic, and positivity in our decision making. Please consider me for such a responsibility, not only to offer what I contribute, but to learn from each and every one of you on our town council with a clear mind, open heart, and how to contribute in the best of ways. Miigwech.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. And now we'll go to the questions, and the first question is for Councilor Bien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Horton, what motivated you to apply for this position, and what unique skills or experiences do you bring that would benefit our council?
Miigwech. Since I was a child, I've been involved in public service. When I was 5 or 6 years old, I was part of the Minneapolis Aquatennial and the Tower Days of Spring Lake Park, and over the years served on a number of boards, including the Minnesota Indian Education Association. What that taught me from a young age is that when we work together and we're all pulling in the same direction, even if we may disagree on small matters, this is how we get things done. Those experiences since I was a child taught me the values of rationality and reason, and really emphasizing that portion of that word of community, unity. In terms of values and principles to bring towards something like this, I turn to our language. Our word for town in Anishinaabe-Moan is Utena. And what that really means is the place where hearts gather in a sacred way. When we are dealing with each other with reason, rationality, kindness, and when we see our constituents and our public and our community as our extended family and relatives, this made me aware of how to do things in the right way. Miigwech.
Thank you. I'll ask the next question.
Okay.
So, Mr. Horton, our council must make decisions that balance diverse community needs. How do you plan to engage with and represent all residents in your decision making?
If provided with this responsibility, it's incumbent upon anyone given such a responsibility to be aware that there are multiple perspectives out there, different than our own. And that's when we're operating in that realm of belief, opinion, and subjective truth. When we have disagreements, it's very, very important to know where we're standing and what flag we're flying under, fact or opinion, knowledge or belief. When dealing with different opinions, the number one thing that's important to do is listen. And beyond listening, being open to understanding. Understanding what that common ground is, even though we may have very, very differing opinions, there is common ground there. There is embers within that ash. Being open to listening and attempting to understand where someone's coming from is intensely, intensely important. In our language, our word, nibwakaen, which it means wisdom. But what that really means is having an abundance of sight, meaning being able to open oneself to see things from different perspectives. At the core of so much of Western civilization, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, they echoed the same type of sentiment. What we call that in the language is the overarching ways of knowing. And it all
Sorry,
comes back.
that's the 2 minutes.
Sure, all good, all good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. Moving on to the third question, we'll go to Councilor Mackey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Horton, council members often face differing viewpoints. How would you handle your situations where your personal views or beliefs differ from council's final decisions?
Right out of the gate, I think it's very important to know and to fully understand that all of us working on a common goal, we're going to have areas where we disagree. And it's how we navigate that. And how do we navigate that? We listen to each other and have that civil dialogue. Civil dialogue and respect for what another council member, another individual brings to the table, because every bit of that we carry, it comes from experience. It comes from proficiency. It comes from professional background, personal background. All of us in this room, every one of us, even up here in the viewing area, we all come with different perspectives. The key is to identify where that common ground is. And then when it comes to the differing opinions, emphasize listening, understanding. A dialogue that is sensible. Standing on that common ground and being open in ourselves to learn new things. Miigwech.
Thank you, Mr. Horton. And the fourth question, we go to Councilor Burnetta.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Horton, can you describe your decision-making process? How would you approach a complex issue where community members are divided?
The most important starting point for something like that is to identify the common ground. And once that common ground is identified, working from the middle to the outside through sensible dialogue, respect, listening, and being willing to learn new things. Often when we disagree on massive matters, often it's because we're not listening to each other enough. If there's a concern someone has working with a group of people, often it's due to because we're not communicating enough. Communicate to any one person, and that heart inside them is the same that's inside you. And you'd be really surprised at how much we all agree on, but the key is to communicate and to listen to one another. In terms of decision making, coming from a place of reason and rationality, and reminding ourselves about the care that we're all putting on the table for the people in our town, not just parts of our town, but every single Canadian citizen that's a resident of this place. We put our values on the table and our principles and get a very inspiring message there and work from that, because they're worth it. The future is worth this. Miigwech.
Thank you, Mr. Horton, for those answers and that presentation.
You're welcome. Miigwech.
Welcome, and you may begin anytime.
Good evening. I can't read mine because I have it addressed to Deputy Mayor, and thankfully we have our mayor with us today. So, dear Mayor and Council, I am writing this to express my interest as councilor position as advertised. With many years of professional experience, including nearly a quarter century in business, Bright Guys Computer Services from 1993 to 2002, Bright Guys Enterprise, 03 to 05, EnviroClean Housekeeping Services, 07 to 14, and most recently, Ink Spots Apparel Plus, 2013 to present. I am eager to bring my skills in management, decision-making, and critical thinking to help lead Fort Frances to once again become an affordable, productive, and vibrant community. In addition to my being a business owner, I started out as a crew leader on a family farm and have been a manager for several companies, including general manager of McGuire's Restaurant in the 80s, food manager at the Keg Restaurant, Windsor, from 86 to 88, first assistant manager at Burger King Clifton Hill, 90 to 93. My professional career has given me a diverse set of skills that align seamlessly with the requirements of a counselor. From overseeing daily operations to managing budgets and leading several teams, I have cultivated the decision-making skills necessary to bring structure and efficiency that readies me for the position. Secondly, decision-making has been my cornerstone of my career, whether it involved strategic planning, addressing challenges, or capitalizing on opportunities. My role required me in making informed and timely decisions. As a counselor, this ability will be instrumental in evaluating policies, responding to the needs of constituents, and facilitating meaningful community engagement while balancing what needs to be done during in-camera meetings with the needs for transparency to the electorate. My formal education includes a year at Niagara College of General Studies and 6 years at EB College, concurrent with my years of owning Bright Computing Services. I have dedicated my life to giving back to the community I've lived in. In recent years, I was a Kiwanis member, then director 2010 to 2015, a volunteer, and then a director of the Fort Frances Canadian Bass Championship, 06 to 10, volunteer, then coordinator International Falls Bass Championship, 2012 to 2019, community member of the Fort Frances Business Improvement Area from 2014 to 2024, a volunteer in various capacities of International Falls Figure Skating Club, 2009, and that's ongoing, as well as volunteer for Ruby's Pantry in the Falls, again, 2023 still ongoing. When the Fort Frances Christmas Parade was in peril in 2015, I stepped forward and was event coordinator and fundraised for it. This continued annually until 2020 when I had our local Santa, Jonathan Price, talk to the children on an intercom in my store window due to COVID restrictions. My commitment to service combined with my strengths and experiences make me well positioned to effectively serve as a counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Krinky-Turvey. And now we'll go to the questions with the first question coming from Ms. Councilor McTaggart.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Krinky-Turvey, could you tell us what motivated you to apply for this position and what unique skills or experiences do you bring that would benefit our council?
Residents of the Fort Frances are worried about the social economic future of our community. A future generated from a governance model known as the Old Boys Club. We hear no and can't far too often. We do not have transparency, accountability, or effective representation that puts the best interests of our community first. which ultimately cost the town the largest source of tax revenue and the rights of rebirth and connection with the forest industry for decades to come, if not ever. We currently have $22 million in reserves. The town appears to budget for a surplus every year. The financial statements show the operating surplus in $6 to $8 million range consistently year over year. Taxation now for some unknown future expense. Yet we have been repeatedly told we need more. After addressing council in September, my suspicions were confirmed as the increases in taxes identified by the town added even more to the reserves. Over a recent 5-year period, taxation went up 6%, not including the 6% this current year. Why? To add another 5 or 6 million to the reserves? Something has to change. And for me and many I've spoken to, that means someone willing to say no to tax increases and yes to charging user fees for those who want community properties and services at their use, for their use. If reserves are low and require funding, then budget for increasing the reserves.
Sorry, that's our 2 minutes.
Thank you for that, Mr. Crinky-Turvey. And for the second question, we'll go to Councilor Firth.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Crinky-Turvey, our council must make decisions that balance diverse community needs. How do you plan to engage with and represent all residents in your decision making?
I've been active in the business community and have held dozens of informal polls in the past decade plus. I just recently stepped down from the BIA, where I served about a decade. I frequently speak with business owners and community stakeholders about the needs of the community and how we can do better. I'm very involved in the community service, in community service, which has kept me informed on the popular opinion. Also lurk in several social media sources that are oriented to those from Fort Frances. So I know the pulse of some of the less vocal people in our community. Those who would never address council or even send a complaint form for fear they would be known as a whiner or being retaliated upon. That is sad. I am a strong believer that council must represent constituents and their well-being and act by keeping the community interests and desires first and foremost. Unlike some of our prior leadership in Fort Frances, I believe we need a new way of doing things to keep Fort Frances from continuing to be the place tourists have to go through to get somewhere. Instead, we need to draw people. Something the past leadership has repeatedly failed to because of lack of willingness to change.
Thank you for that, Mr. Crinky-Turvey. Question number 3, I'll deliver this question. Council members often face differing viewpoints. How would you handle situations where your personal views or beliefs differ from council's final decisions?
I stand behind my beliefs. We don't need another council that will bow down to one or a couple councilors' opinions or vote for the majority of special interest groups just to keep the peace. We need strong councilors who will stand behind their views and their decisions that are made to strengthen Fort Frances and our quality of life. That said, it doesn't mean that one can't be tactful when decisions go against their position and support the majority vote. I can agree to disagree. As councilors, we represent constituents and the need to be open and transparent so that our constituents can trust us, which is sadly lacking. I only have one vote. However, council needs to have a common goal that represents the best interests of the community and all constituents. I have yet to see such a goal in council going back decades.
Thank you for that, Mr. Kinky-Turvey. And for the final question, we'll go to Councilor Bean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Crinky-Turvey, describe your decision-making process. How would you approach a complex issue where community members are divided?
I'm a strong believer in developing an evaluation matrix for complex situations that require transparency and accountability. How can one defend how can anyone defend their decision when it's made on? How can anyone defend their decision they make on behalf of others without some sort of scorecard as being, able to say, this is how I came up with this decision? It's beyond me, okay? There ought to be a way, as public representatives, to account for decisions. If I make a decision on behalf of others, my gut plays little into my decision making. A balance sheet including views of those I am making the decision on behalf of, short and long-term perceived ramifications, and to a lesser degree, historic precedent are my guiding principles. However, I am flexible and can be swayed with valid reasoning should it be presented, but rarely swayed by someone's gut opinion or the trust me statement. I must be accountable for my reasons and my decisions, reasoning and decisions. If anyone at this table cannot say the same, they're in the wrong chairs.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Kinky-Turvey, and the answer to those questions. Welcome, Mr. Morrison.
Thank you.
And whenever you're ready.
Good. I spoke with Chelsea yesterday. I wanted to give everybody who'd want some, this is part of my 5 minutes, I guess. I just want to give everybody who would like some tobacco. If anybody doesn't want any, you just put your hand up and say no, but. Not going in?
Thanks, Bill.
Baju Anin, Wake Benez Indigo, Bill Morrison Dishnikaz, Fort Francis Nindunji, Migwich Ki Waba Miyeg Nongum, Naminawinda Waba Minong, Akinawea. What I'm saying, hello, greetings. My Anishinaabe name is Wake Benez. My English birth name is Bill Morrison. And I just wanted to say thank you for having me here tonight. I also gave you tobacco. When I said give me nin, that means I'm giving you. I said give bindako nin, I'm honoring you with tobacco because I want to work with you. Dear Mayor, Council, and Town of Fort Francis Administration, please accept the attached Councilor Vacancy application, declaration of qualification forms, my application to vacant seat, the Town of Fort Francis Council. I currently work as a community relations specialist with Chittiwin Family Services, where I have experience working with the public and our local First Nation partners. We're part of a team that puts on numerous large public events, such as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th. I also worked with the mayor and town officials the last 2 years in proclaiming Truth and Reconciliation Week in the town of Fort Francis. I also wrote the proclamation for the flag raising. I served as Deputy Reeve of Albertan Township in 2000 to 2003. I served on many committees and boards, including as President and Vice President of NCDS CareerWorks. During my term on Albertan Council, I presented extensive research and pursued funding for new projects such as oil surfacing the roads and the Albertan Millennium Rink, which are both still serving the taxpayers well today. I fought hard to save the Albertan taxpayers money while enhancing the infrastructure and the recreational opportunities. Over the years, I've acquired valuable experience working at all levels of government, including municipal, provincial, federal, and our neighboring First Nations. I know firsthand how important the local Anishinaabe are to our local economy. I believe it's important to our community to work with them economically and recognize Anishinaabe cultural protocols when we're working with them. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to Mayor and Council about my suitability for this town council position. Language.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. And now we'll go to the questions. And the very first question will be asked by Councilor Bernetta.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Morrison, what motivated you to apply for this position, and what unique skills or experiences do you bring that would benefit our council?
Thank you. My parents always encouraged me to get involved any way I can to make a community a better place to live. They told me instead of complaining about an issue, get involved and try to be part of the solution. So at 15 years old, I joined the Sunset Country Weightlifting Club to help raise money for new equipment at our local gym. A lot of the equipment we purchased is still being used today. It was nice to see a Ray Calder just recently refurbished equipment. It's almost looking like brand new again. As I mentioned in my statement, I have past experience in municipal politics, having served as Deputy Reeve in Albertan Township. I stepped away after one term in council as I had a growing business and young children. During my decade living in Albertan, I sat in too many communities to list them all, but some of them are the school closure, AMS Building Inspection Services, NCDS, the Recreation Board, the Roads Board, or just some of the committees I sat on. I also have experience working with DSAB, the OPP, MTO, MPPs, MPs, and I've attended NOMA and AMO municipal conferences. I think my biggest asset, my ability to make strong connections to businesses, organizations, and get people to work together. I was happy to be able to invite and work with Mayor Halikas and other town reps in the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, which plans events around September 30th. We worked together on a flag raising proclamation here at Town Hall the last 2 years. I've also recently been working with interim clerk Chelsea to consult with Anishinaabe elders in regards to bringing back the Little Amic mascot. In my previous experience and current career in community relations, I have experience working at all levels of government, including our neighboring First Nations. I'm a quick learner, easy to work with, and I've always taken a lot of pride in our community. I want to be a part of the solution moving forward. How much time? Oh, 14. If I had more time today, I'd love to tell you guys a story about how I started the recycling program in Fort Francis as a high school project in grade 12 science and society class. I'm proud that recycling is still going on in Fort Francis today.
Thank you for that answer, Mr. Morrison. And we'll go to the second question from Councilor Mackey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Morrison, our council must make decisions that balance diverse community needs. How do you plan to engage with and represent all residents in your decision making?
Thank you, Councilor Mackey. I've been born and raised in Fort Francis. I know many residents, and I know most of the local business owners. I'm very active socially. I see a lot of the people out and about while I'm playing sports, going for coffee, or working out daily at the gym. People know that I have a keen interest in what goes on in our community, and I often get into discussions where I hear concerns about homelessness, doctor shortages in the area, just to name a few. When this vacant seat was announced, I was actually humbled by the amount of people who asked me to run for this seat, knowing they'd be a good representative for the area. From conversation with concerned residents, especially retirees on fixed income, I know that taxpayers like myself are already maxed out. So each decision I make will have to be on a case-by-case basis to ensure taxpayers get the most out of their money. I'd also consider it an honor if I was able to help the town reconcile with our neighboring First Nations, as I've been worried about the relationship for years. Many locals may not know how important the First Nations are to our local economy. Some are buying local businesses and employing Fort Francis residents. Matanja Gimming is building a new hotel and restaurant next to the Walmart. Nigagusa has over 50 employees working in the town of Fort Francis. There will soon be a biofuel plant built in the area as a partnership with the communities of Treaty 3 South. I believe to move forward successfully, the town and area First Nations need to find a path to move beyond just being neighbors to working together as partners. I can't promise that I can improve the relations, but the first step to working with our neighbors would be to approach them like I did with you tonight, by offering a sema, which is tobacco. By giving a sema, you're showing that you respect and honor the Anishinaabe culture, and you're putting in a serious effort to work together.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. And the fourth question is mine. Oops, sorry. Third question is mine. No, Councilor McTaggart has got the third question. You guys are messing me up. I had a perfect record going until then.
Your batting average is still high. Mr. Morrison, thank you for your presentation. Council members often face differing viewpoints. How would you handle situations where your personal views or beliefs differ from council's final decision?
Thank you. I think the beauty of democracy is we can all share our viewpoints and majority rules, and I think that's great. I've always had an open mind. I enjoy listening to a wide variety of ideas, and I ask a lot of questions. If I'm going to voice my opinion on something, I'm going to come prepared with factual information. I currently work in community relations. In the past week, I've had 3 press releases and numerous social media posts. They've had more than 50,000 views. I wouldn't last long. I wasn't given, I was kind of cutting out here. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't given engaging, factual information to the public. One of my strengths throughout life has been diplomacy and helping with conflict resolution. I've been the mediator through many disputes over the years in various scenarios, and I've always been able to bring people together. People have always seemed to trust me and my opinion because of my sensible approach to dealing with issues. I also enjoy it when I can take part in a healthy debate with everybody leaving the table on good terms. I've definitely had disagreements with people over the years, but I've never had any hard feelings or animosity with anyone, and I've always respected everybody's opinions. I enjoy hearing different opinions, and I appreciate when someone convinces me they have a better idea or a solution that I can support. Regardless of my opinion on an issue, once a majority of councils pass a resolution, I'd give my support, as that's how a democratic council is supposed to work.
Thank you for that answer, Mr. Morrison. And now I get the next question. This is on decision making. Mr. Morrison, describe your decision-making process, how you would approach a complex issue where community members are divided.
Thank you. Well, during my term on Albertan Council, we had many issues where residents were divided, and I always made my decisions based on considerable research and extensive communications with the area residents. One contentious issue we had was the old Albertan Hall. A referendum was held, and the residents voted not to build a new hall. The old hall was derelict and was beyond repair, so the clerk had advertised to demolish the hall. The quotes came back quite high, and I recommended looking for another alternative, and I said, let's look at supporting fire training. And we were given a grant to host firefighters from all over northwestern Ontario to practice their firefighting skills while burning down the old Albertan Hall. A number of sentimental residents who wanted to save the old hall at any cost were mortified that we had the audacity to burn down their hall. Oh, that's where I was here. I remember pulling up to the next council meeting and the parking lot was full and it was standing room only, with a lot of residents very upset that the hall was burned to the ground. Once I explained how much money was needed to fix things like the furnace in the flooded basement, the electrical, the roofing, the plumbing, I then advised the local residents how expensive it was to demolish a hall with a backhoe and dump trucks. And once I explained that we received funding to host a firefighter training, which trained our firefighters locally, and saved the township a lot of money in travel and demolition costs, I never heard another word about the old hall until my new stepmom moved back to Fort Francis a few years later, and she said, "Who was the idiot who burned down the Albertan Hall?" And I'll never forget the look of my face when I said that was me. In all seriousness, though, I can honestly say I don't believe I ever put a council resolution forward that was voted down, as I came to each council meeting fully informed with as much research and information as possible on every resolution that I put forward. I want to thank you all for this opportunity today. Wish you all the best of luck in your decision. I'm happy you have so many good candidates to choose from. I wish the entire council administration a happy holidays. Baba Giga Wabaman. I hope to see you all again. Miigwech.
Thank you for the presentation and those answers, Mr. Morrison. Welcome, Ms. Williams. And whenever you're ready.
Hi, my name is Pam Williams. Excuse me. I was born and raised in Fort Francis. I married my husband in 1978, and after a year we had moved to Toronto for him to go to college. In 1980 we moved to Thunder Bay, and we lived there for 34 years. We raised all of our kids there. And in 2012 we moved back to Fort Francis, excuse me, where I opened a business a year later. While in Thunder Bay, I had worked at different jobs and positions until I went to Confederation College and received my diploma in business accounting in 1994. I worked for a couple of accounting firms, a heating and cooling company, until we moved back to Fort Francis. I did some volunteer work in Thunder Bay with the Therapeutic Riding Association, Northwood Hockey League, and in Fort Francis, I am on the Fort Francis BIA. I have been a member for the past 6 years, and for the past 4 years, I have been the treasurer. I have also volunteered at Dream River Ranch and helping with horse camps and with the Lions Club dog walk. All of my experience in volunteering has taught me many things, including communicating with the public in a respectful and kind manner. Being on the BIA board and having my own business, I have learned the different rules and regulations between being an employee versus an employer and a board member, and how to work within a team as well as on my own. I have attended a couple town meetings, and it has helped me see a bit of how the meetings are run. I do believe I would make a good town councillor, and I look forward to having a chance to show you. I would also like to bring a fresh view to our town meetings. Thank you for your time and consideration in considering me for the vacant councillor's position.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
And we will go to questions. The first question coming from Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mrs. Williams, what motivated you to apply for this position, and what unique skills or experiences do you bring that would benefit our council?
I was motivated to apply for this position as I had previously considered in the last two elections I thought of running. I view this opportunity as an excellent chance to gain firsthand insight as to how the meetings are conducted, a better understanding of the responsibilities of a town councillor. As a quick learner, I am confident in my ability to swiftly grasp policies and procedures associated with the role. My experience of the BIA, Therapeutic Riding Association, the Northwood Hockey League has equipped me with the valuable skills to work as a team as well as on my own and respect the diverse perspectives and personalities of town council and the town's residents.
Thank you for that answer, Ms. Williams. And we'll go to Councillor Bean for question number 2.
Thank you, Mayor Halakis. Ms. Williams, our council must make decisions that balance diverse community needs. How do you plan to engage with and represent all residents in your decision-making?
To effectively represent all the residents of Fort Francis, I will carefully consider all the opinions and concerns of the community, as well as perspectives of the council. My goal will be to find a balanced approach that addresses the needs and the requests of the residents while aligning with the council's objectives. With my business, I get a lot of people coming in, and we get into a lot of conversations. And part of that would help if I get this position, would help understanding where they're coming from and be able to bring it back and talk through it with the town council.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And question number 3 goes to Councillor Bean.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have to say hi, Pam. We went to school together, so. Okay, so Council members often face differing viewpoints. How would you handle situations where your personal views or beliefs differ from council's final decisions?
Managing different viewpoints would depend on the nature and the severity of the differences. I am comfortable navigating minor disagreements and can effectively distinguish between a minor and a significant disagreement or issue. For more substantial ones, I would ensure that the following appropriate procedures and policies to address and resolve the matter in a constructive manner. Continue talking to, if it was me and one of the councillors, continue talking to them, trying to figure out where we could meet in the middle if possible. Like I said, everybody has disagreements, and sometimes you just have to agree to disagree.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. And the final question goes to Councillor Mackey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mrs. Williams, describe your decision-making process. How would you approach a complex issue where community members are divided?
My decision-making approach involves gathering all relevant facts and considering diverse perspectives, also verifying them against external data. If I can find anything on computers or past council meetings or anywhere I can find information to help with the decision-making. Once I have a comprehensive understanding of the issue, I would present my findings to council and aim to foster a collective discussion that will help bring the communities together or help resolve whichever problems or concerns we're having. And yes, I don't ever take 2 minutes to talk.
Thank you for your presentation and the answer to those questions, Ms. Williams.
And thank you for your time.
Before we get to the voting, we're going to take a 5-minute comfort break. So it's 6:47 right now. We'll resume at 6:52.
Could I just remind for the candidates and for council that we will not discuss any of the presentations during our break?
Yes.
Thank you.
For that. Which is voting, and 7.1, the clerk will give an overview of the voting procedures.
Hold on, we're waiting on Mr.
Oh. Wasn't listening to the instructions.
You wait till the bathroom cleared out first.
Good evening, everyone. Now that the interviews have concluded, we're to move on to the voting. Here's the process. We will be sharing the voting on the screen as it happens. Council will be provided paper ballots for each round. I will draw their names and call on individual members of council. They'll mark their vote, verbally state it, and turn their ballot into me. Voting rounds will proceed until either one person has accumulated the majority needed to win, which is 4, or we have a tiebreaker. For each round, the person or persons who receive no votes will not move on to the next round. If no person receives 0 votes and there is a tie for last place, those candidates' names will be drawn. The names drawn will get to stay on the ballot, and the person whose name was not drawn will not move on to the next round. Should there only be 2 candidates left and it comes to a tie, a name will be drawn and that person will be deemed the successful candidate. And in between rounds, I will need a few moments to strike the names of those not moving on to the next round on the written ballots for council. And I wish you all the very best of luck and echo the merit that though we only have 1 seat, we hope you'll all consider running for fall of 2026. And with that, can I call on Councillor Behan to place the first vote?
I vote for Mr. Morrison.
Councillor Brunetta.
I vote for William Morrison Jr.
Councillor Mackey.
I vote for Mr. William Morrison Jr.
Mayor Halakis.
I vote for Mr. Horton.
Councillor Firth.
I vote for Mr. Horton. My pen works.
Councillor McTaggart.
Thank you. I vote for Mr. Brown.
Mayor Halkus.
I vote for Mr. Horton.
Councillor McTaggart.
I vote for Mr. Brown.
Councillor Brunetta.
I vote for William Morrison Jr.
Councillor Bien.
I vote for Mr. Morrison Jr.
Councillor Firth.
I vote for Mr. Horton.
Councillor Mackey.
I vote for Mr. Morrison Jr.
Since Mr. Douglas Brown is in last place, he will not be moving on to the next round. Councillor McTaggart.
Mr. Morrison Jr.
Councillor Brunetta.
William Morrison Jr.
Councillor Mackey.
William Morrison Jr.
Councillor Bien.
Mr. Morrison Jr.
Okay. Mr. William Morrison Jr. has 4 votes.
Congratulations to Mr. Morrison, and my sincere thanks for all of you for running, and I sincerely meant what I said. I hope we see your names again, either on some committees or especially in the next council election. You would all make excellent councillors. That brings us to item 8.1, which is the filling of the council vacancy. So I'll put a recommendation on the floor that a bylaw be enacted to appoint William Morrison Jr. to the vacant councillor seat. Councillor Mackey, Councillor McTaggart. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried, and no one is opposed. Item 8.2, recommendation reads that bylaw 84-24, being a bylaw to fill a vacancy in the office of a member of council, be introduced and read and finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the corporate seal, and become law forthwith. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Firth, Councillor Burnetta. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. No one is opposed. So, Councillor Morrison, if you would step forward, we'll administer the oath of office.
Right. A big congratulations to our successful candidate. You have been appointed to the office of councillor for the town of Fort Frances for the remainder of the council term to fall of 2026. Are you prepared to take a solemn declaration of office?
Yes, I am.
You will then raise your right hand and read your declaration of office, after which, as a pledge of your fidelity to render this a solemn declaration, you will affix your signature to the prescribed form in token of your submission thereto.
I, William Morrison Jr., have been appointed to the office of councillor in the town of Fort Frances, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner. I will not disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And I identify as an Indigenous person, and I assert that making declaration of allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III be inconsistent with my views regarding the relationship between the Crown and Indigenous peoples. Make the solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and knowing that it is the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Thank you, Bill. Your worship and members of council, in open view of this assembly, I declare this council duly organized within the meaning of the act, and that this person appointed to the council of the town of Fort Frances has taken the required declaration of their respected offices in the prescribed form and has taken the declaration of office. It is my honor to present for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 term of council, Councillor Morrison. I will now officially turn the meeting over to Mayor Halakis and your worship.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're at item 9.1, which is the confirmatory bylaw. Recommendation reads that bylaw 85-24, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Fort Frances, be introduced and read, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the corporate seal, and become law forthwith. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bean, Councillor Firth. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. And finally, having reached the hour of this meeting of the Council of Fort Francis be now closed. Mover and seconder, Councilor McTaggart, Councilor Mackey. Calling the question, all in favor? And that's carried.